in the videos that you saw so far, I hope you got a greater clarity of what data science is, what are the different tasks involved in it. You also got to understand why it has become so popular today, why does everyone want to do data science, why is there so much demand for data scientists today, what are the factors which have made it very conducive to do data science today. Then you also got some clarity on this confusion around all these terms on artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, data science, data mining, and you got some idea about how they are connected to each other and how they have their own separate spaces in this universe of all these things put together, right? Now what I want to talk is, I don't want to leave at this impression that data science is very useful and it's there to solve all your problems and so on. So I also want to talk about some of the myths of data science and the impact of these myths, as well as I want to give more clarity on why these things are not true, right? So the first myth which we hear in a lot of industry circles from great places, right, is that machine does everything. That means you have data, you throw it at a machine and all your problems will be solved, right? And this is not really as funny as it looks, because this is what many people think machine learning or data science is, right? You just give lots of data to machine and everything else will be done by it. And let's try to understand, let's make a clear case for why this is not the case. So let's put the human here, let's put the machine here, and now let's call out every task that we have seen in the context of data science and see what does a human do and what does a machine do, right? So the first task was collecting data. What does a human do here? He decides what data to collect. So if you want to solve image classification, if the 10 categories are 10 different animals that you're interested in, you have to decide that this is the data that I have to feed. You can't feed data about cars to a machine and then expect it to be able to distinguish between different species of animals, right? So you are deciding what data to collect. You are also deciding where to collect it from. You are using your knowledge about search engines and so on and saying that, okay, maybe I should type these 10 words, cat, dog, sheep, in Google, and then whatever search results it shows in images, I should maybe pick up images from there, and then that's what the data that I should collect, right? Or in the case of the politics example which I had given, where you are interested in knowing whether a particular policy is being received positively by the citizens or not, you need to know that Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Reddit discussion forums is where I'll find data about this, and not probably on, say, a website of a bank or an insurance company, or even news websites which only have news articles and not necessarily opinions of people about these articles, right? And then you also need to know how to collect data. So how to collect data relates to my third example of data science, which was data does not exist anywhere and you need to design an experiment to collect data. So the key thing there was to design these what are known as randomized control experiments, and which we'll see in the course, is that you can't just put one seed in one farm and then conclude whether that works or not. You also need to see what is the effect of the fertilizer, the effect of the irrigation, and design an experiment which allows you to isolate the effect of these different things, right? So how to collect data, how to design the experiment is also something that a human does. Without that insight, you cannot really get good data, right? Then lastly, in many cases, so coming back to the image example, you might get a lot of images of animals online from some repository, but then you'll also have to painfully label them, right? You'll have to say that this is a cat, this is a dog, and data annotation is a big industry today, and this is again something that a human does. Without this, most of supervised learning will not work, because you'll not get labeled data for free. You get lots of unlabeled data for free, but you don't get labeled data for free. There are lots of images that people upload on Instagram, Facebook, and other places, but they don't necessarily label it with tags saying that this is a mountain or this is a beach or this is a river. Someone has to actually do it, right? I'm not saying that they never do it. Of course, they put hashtags and other things, but in many cases, you have to label the data on your own. What does a machine do? It just executes the script. So if you're going to write a crawler to crawl data from Facebook or blogs, or if you're going to write APIs, work with APIs to get data from these social media sites, then the machine is just executing these scripts, and it's hence in some way simplifying your job. The alternative would have been to go to every page in Facebook and then to go to that discussion forum, copy the discussions there, paste it in a file and so on. All that painful, tedious task you are not doing. You're just writing code, and the machine is executing that script and allowing you to collect data at much faster rates and more efficiently. That's all, right? So that's what a machine does in this situation. Now let's talk about storing data. Here again, you have to decide what the schema is. Do you really care about first name and last name being two separate fields, or just one field is okay? Is date and time what you want to store, or timestamp is what you want to store? What do you want to call this? Do you want to call it an item or a good or a package, or what do you want to call this, right? All this, what are the different foreign keys, what are the primary keys in your database? This is all that you as a human or a database administrator actually decides. Which file system to use. So now if you want to store a lot of image data, a lot of video data, should you use distributed file systems like Hadoop, or you could do it just in your hard disk? What kind of file system should you use? Right? This is again something that a human needs to decide. And what does the machine do in this case? It provides you the physical storage, right? It just gives you space to store large amounts of data, which you could not, really store anywhere else. Right? You have to store it in digital format, and that's what the machine gives you. Right? Now let's move on to processing data. Here again you need domain knowledge. Remember, in processing data you had to do things like data wrangling, data munging, which required you to exchange data between different formats, right? If you remember the example of the JSON example, JSON data going into a database, you need data domain knowledge for that. You need to know that item here refers to goods here, or a package here refers to goods here, or item here, and so on, right? So that is required. You also need to know what data to clean, right? You need to know that, okay, this is a column where I store attributes like half sleeve, full sleeve, and so on, and I know that people often make mistakes in doing that. They don't write it in the standard format. Maybe the standard is half sleeve, whereas they write it as half sleeved with a D at the end, right? So you need to know what data to clean, and then you need to know how to clean it, right? So for example, if you want to do things like standardizing, normalizing, or missing filling values, you need to know what are the different techniques of doing this, right? And that's where some knowledge of statistics is required. And then again, if you want to study and integrate from multiple formats, then you need to do that study. A machine will not know that the package content here actually means an item in the database. This is something that a human needs to decide and integrate data, right? And again, what does the machine do? You write scripts for all of these, and it executes these scripts. You write a script for cleaning data or replacing all data items by their standardized values or the normalized values, and the machine just executes these scripts at a large scale, right? You don't have to compute these values by hand and then enter them into a database or anything. You can just run scripts which can do that, and that's what the machine helps you in doing it, right? Then lastly, describing data. Which columns are worth describing? Is color an attribute that I really care about? Do I need a histogram of different colors in my e-catalog? Which are the plots which make sense, right? Do I choose a histogram, a frequency plot, a box plot, or a scatter plot, or a stem and leaf plot? Which plots should I use? These are again decisions which a human takes. And what are the trends that are worth studying, right? Does it even make sense to compare sales, or rather to study the trend or relation between sales and the number of salesmen in a shop, right? How would a machine know that this is something worth understanding? You have to decide that. The machine can of course quickly plot this and show you what the data looks like, but you have to take that decision, right? Again, the job of the machine here is execute scripts. So you can see this in this part of data science. The machine really is not playing a lot of role. What it is doing is what machines are always good at doing. That means quickly running code and manipulating large amounts of data quickly, which a human cannot do, right? So in this scenario, a human is doing what a human is good at, that is analyzing data, studying patterns, and so on. And a machine is doing what it is good at, that is storing and processing large amounts of data. Now, once you come to modeling, here again, you come up with certain hypotheses that the data follows a normal distribution, or there's a linear relationship, or there's a very complex non-linear relationship between the variables that I'm trying to study. Who comes up with these models? A human comes up with these models, right? And then once you want to start learning the parameters of these models, you need to run certain optimization algorithms, and you need to oversee this training. You need to take care of things like overfitting, underfitting, the loss saturating, the loss not decreasing at a particular rate. Of course, all of these are things which you may not know at this point, but we'll cover them in the machine learning course, right? What the machine does, it allows you to estimate these parameters very quickly, right? So just let's spend a minute on what this means, right? Typically, you're dealing with large amounts of data. Your models are also very, very complex, and you have millions of parameters. Nowadays, you have order 100 million parameters is very common to have in deep learning models. You want to learn all of these parameters. You cannot do it by hand. What you do is you run complex optimization algorithms which learn these parameters. Now these optimization algorithms is not something that you and I can sit on a pen and paper and do it, right? You need a machine to be able to run this very, very efficiently, and that's where good hardware like GPUs and TPUs comes into play, which can do these computations very fast and from large amounts of data, right? That's where a machine is very, very useful, right? This important part of data science which deals with modeling, where an important component is to propose a model, that's what a human does, but estimating the parameters of the model that's what the machine does, right? And it runs these nice optimization algorithms very quickly and hence gives you results very, very quickly, right? So that's what the machine does. But it's very clear, machine has limited role to play in this. It's what you're using from the machine is its storage and compute power. Even in this estimating parameters, what you're using essentially is the compute power of GPUs to do a large number of matrix multiplications very, very quickly, right? But everything else, the entire insight of how to go about this process is actually coming from a data scientist. If you don't have a skilled data scientist who is technically sound in domain, in statistics, in probability, in programming, and then machine learning modeling, you will not be able to execute a data science project, right? You can't just say that I have a powerful machine and I'll have all that I need. So that's the first myth. I went into this in a lot of detail because this is a statement which I hear often. I have lots of data, I have very powerful machines, tell me what to do with it. There's nothing you can do. The first thing you need to do is hire a data scientist who can figure out what to do with this data, right? So that's the first myth, and I hope I have clarified this in great detail. The second myth is that data science requires big data and deep learning. So you cannot do data science, you are not doing data science unless you're doing deep learning, you're not doing data science unless you're dealing with big data, you're not doing data science unless you're running loads on very specialized hardwares like GPUs and TPUs and so on. That's not at all true, and here's an example. Think of a rural school which has data of less than 500 students. Probably only 500 students have studied in that school in the past 3 to 4 years, in the past 3 to 4 classes in 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. And now you are interested in answering some very important questions here. Do more girls drop out from school than boys, right? What do students really find maths to be harder than social science? What is the relationship between the distance of a student's house from the school and the performance of the student? Is it that students who stay very far away perform very poorly? And again, what you're looking for here are very robust answers. You're looking for answers of the form, I'm 99% sure that as the distance of the school from the student's home increases by 1 kilometer, his performance drops by 1% or 2% or 10 marks or whatever that is, right? You're looking for very, very robust answers in these domains, and that's where you need statistics. That's where you need statistical modeling and descriptive statistics, inferential statistics. You don't really need deep learning here. You don't really need a lot of machine learning here, right? So this is a myth that it's data science only if you use big data and only if you use data learning. In fact, in India, a lot of potential of data science is to be unlocked in these small and medium businesses, right, which have limited data, but they have very interesting data and they want to get insights from this data so that they can plan things better and get an edge over these bigger players in that area, right? So think of small kirana stores and other places which have some data. They're probably not collecting it, but it's easy to collect that data. And then with that small data, they want to be able to plan or run their business better, attract more customers and so on. So these are very important problems to be solved and they don't require deep learning, right? So that's the second myth which I wanted to clarify. The third myth is that data science is always successful, and this falls under the category that hype is not always good. In fact, the hype around data science is creating more harm than it is helping. People have a lot of false expectations from data science that if I hire a data scientist, if I have tons of data, if I have good compute power, then I'll see immediate returns in my business, right? I'll get lots of insights which will help improve my business and so on. This may not always be true. There are several reasons why data science could fail. First reason is that there are no meaningful insights in the data. You have lots of data, but there are not significant trends. It is very hard to understand why people shop something. Their shopping patterns are very random for the domain in which you work, and hence this data does not have any insightful patterns. The second could be that the insights that you get from data are not actionable, right? So now suppose there's an insurance company, right? And it has lots of data about its past, current customers and what their economic backgrounds are and so on. And based on this data, the data scientist does some analysis and realizes that people belonging to lower economic strata are not buying enough insurance from this company. This is an insight. No doubt this is an insight. but is this actionable insight? Maybe people who belong to poor or lower economic strata have other more urgent priorities, and hence they are not interested in buying insurance. So no matter what insight I've got from this data, I can't really act on this. I can't really pursue this particular customer base and convince them to buy more insurance from me, because they have other priorities. They don't really have the capital to invest in taking insurance. So this is a case where the insight is not actionable, right? The other thing could be noisy data. Right? So I am collecting a lot of data. I am seeing, I've asked people to send me data about their eating patterns or their fitness regimes and so on. And I've given them certain incentives. And just to get the incentives, people are entering all sorts of noisy data, right? I mean, they just want to quickly type something and get the end discount which you're offering. And in this case, the data may not be any useful, right? And same happens on a lot of social media data. So people talk about tons of data being generated on Twitter and Facebook. A lot of that data is noisy, right? People post spam there. They post a lot of URLs. So what you're trying to understand is, what is this person saying? But if the person is just posting a lot of URLs, then you can't really do any analysis from that tweet. It just has some URL or some pictures and so on, right? So there are many situations in which the data is noisy. There are many situations in which the data is not enough. Coming back to our retinopathy example, that is one clear case where data science can succeed, provided you have large amounts of clean data. If the retinopathy images that you are getting are not clean, or if you don't have large volumes of data, if you don't have access to hospitals which can easily share this data with you, or if you don't have access to hospitals which are willing to label this data with you using their experienced staff, then you can't really do much with it, right? So there are many situations in which data science is not successful, right? And to summarize, data science will succeed only if you have the right amount of clean, usable data, if you have skilled data scientists who are good in both technical and domain knowledge, and if, as an organization, you have the capacity and resources to act on the insights that are generated from data, then data science would be successful for you, and it would lead to certain impact for you, right? So that's, all of this has to fall in place for data science to be really successful. Just having data and just throwing powerful machines or compute at it does not really mean that you will succeed. So this is a third myth that I wanted to clarify about data science, right? So that's all about the myths. I'll end this video here, and I'll come back and talk about the path to data science and throw some light on how we have structured these courses. Thank you.